Let's jump back in to chapter 11 of Number the Stars. Will we see you again soon, Peter? When we left off, Peter was just leaving the house with the first group of Jewish people, and Mrs. Johansson was waiting back with the Rosens, who she would take to Uncle Henrik's boat a little bit later. Mama, Annemarie, and the Rosens sat in silence. There was a slight commotion outside the door, and Mama went quickly to look out. In a moment, she was back. "It's all right," she said, in response to their looks. "The old man stumbled, but Peter helped him. He didn't seem to be hurt. Maybe just his pride," she added, smiling a bit. It was an odd word, pride. Annemarie looked at the Rosens sitting there, wearing the misshapen, ill-fitting clothing, holding ragged blankets folded in their arms, their faces drawn and tired. She remembered earlier the happier times. Mrs. Rosen, her hair neatly combed and covered, lighting the Sabbath candles and saying the ancient prayer, and Mr. Rosen sitting back in his big chair in their living room, studying his thick books, correcting papers, adjusting his glasses, looking up now and again to complain then good-naturedly about the lack of decent light. She remembered Ellen in the school play, moving confidently across the stage, her gesture sure, her voice clear. All of those things, those sources of pride, the candlesticks, the books, the daydreams of theater, had been left behind in Copenhagen. They had nothing with them now. There was only the clothing of unknown people for warmth, the food from Henrik's farm for survival, and the dark path ahead through the woods to freedom. Annemarie realized, though she had not really been told, that Uncle Henrik was going to take them in his boat across the sea to Sweden. She knew how frightened Miss Rosen was of the sea, its width, its depth, its cold. She knew how frightened Ellen was of the soldiers, with their guns and boots, who were certainly out looking for them. And she knew how frightened they all must be of the future. But their shoulders were as straight as they had been in the past, in the classroom, on the stage, at the Sabbath table. So there were other sources, too, of pride, and they had not left everything behind. In this chapter, we see Annemarie really dig deep into the things that are important. She gets an example of what it means to start growing up and being an adult in this time. She realizes that her former brother-in-law, Peter, is now on the same level as her mother. She realizes that taking risks, protecting those we love are the things that are most important. And she hopes, like everyone in that room, that that little baby Rachel will be big enough one day to grow into Kirsty's sweater. She notices her best friend, who's now on a totally different journey, and she questions where pride can really come from. Annemarie is going through a ton of changes, and she's noticing this changing world around her and always making connections to her own values and what she thinks about the world. In this moment, I think Annemarie is learning what's really important, and she's seeing the stars within the sky. We talked about the sky in the last chapter as this dark expanse, this too big world, this too big universe, a thing that makes Annemarie feel frightened. But she's starting to see those stars, even if there are too many to number them. She's seeing the people who will risk something to save others. She's seeing the good within the bad.